Hi, this is Shimelle with this week's Sketch to Scrapbook page, and this week I'm starting with one 4x6 photo and two smaller square pictures that are about 2.5 inches square. And then I'm going to be using some pattern papers by Cosmo from the Salt Air collection and one older American Crafts paper from Craft Fair, which is yellow with a white polka dot. I'm starting with a navy blue cardstock background, and my sketch is there on that little bit of paper if you saw where I started. And I'm just cutting a box that's about 10 inches square for the yellow background. And it does a little bit of a strange effect there on the camera, but it is just a white polka dot on a yellow background. Then I'm going to add this striped border, which is from the Cosmo collection, as a base it's kind of the biggest element on the sketch. And the large photo is then going to have the two smaller photos either side, and I just wanted to place them so I could figure out where they could overlap and not affect the bigger picture. So the larger photo has a few little bits at the edge that I could cover up without taking away the focus from the person in the photo. And now I'm going to use the border strip from the Cosmo and I'm just cutting this one little border that's kind of a multicolored wave design to go alongside the stripes. And then there's also this accent sheet which has lots of journaling boxes, and one has that stripe repeated. So I started by cutting the journaling box out, and then also a second journaling box that has a bit of a beach scene in aqua that matches a little coordinated, but not perfectly matched. And this is what the sketch looked like at the beginning. So I started with this very vertical alignment where everything, the big stripe along the page is going to go from the top to the bottom, just like the portrait photo was very vertical. But I get to a point where I decide that that's not quite right. I also decide that this yellow needs a little bit of a border. So I cut a white cardstock border to separate the yellow from the blue background, and I just cut it so that cut it to 10.25, so I could have or 10.5, so I could have a 1/4 inch mat on each side. And I'm using brown distress ink to add a bit of shading to the yellow pattern paper. The Cosmo papers tend to have a very subtle shading to the edges anyway, and then that made the yellow a little bit too stark in contrast, so I just wanted to add a little bit of shading to that, and then the cardstock mat as well. I'm centering that on the blue cardstock background. And then adding the yellow layer. And then the two strip elements. So one is actually stripes, but it's cut in a 12-inch strip is what I mean. And then the thinner strip that's cut from the wave pattern paper. And add a red cardstock strip just in between the two of those patterns there. Just to make that join a little bit cleaner. And then place the photos. So this is how the sketch originally started, and then I realized it was just too much vertical, so I've turned it around and I like it much better this way. So this is how I've drawn the sketch for this week, and you can of course take it back to the vertical if you prefer, but I thought with my photos and where I'd gone so far I liked that a lot better. And then I went ahead and matted the larger photo with a very narrow mat on red cardstock just so it would pop out a little bit more from the background. And I didn't mat the smaller squares, but I did go around the edges with some black ink. So I'm placing the larger photo very central, and then offsetting the two smaller photos either side. And I needed some sort of movement, so I had this big rhinestone embellishment that's all there, one piece. So I pulled that out. It's by Prima. It's a bit of an older embellishment, but you could do anything in that space there just to give it some movement that's not straight lines. So you could do some stitching, you could use flowers, you could use leaves, anything that would just give it something that's not going to be quite so rigid like the straight lines. And then I'm adding the title with glitter foam thickers by American Crafts. And I'm not very good at spacing, so I always have to pull them up and decide where they should go for real. And I didn't like the offsetting, so I just added a little tilde there next to S. I figured it looked like a wave. I could say that worked, right? Just a little something extra. And then I'm just sticking this giant rhinestone piece down. And I didn't end up using those two journaling boxes that I pulled at the beginning because I thought they were too square. So I preferred this wave shape to go along with the beach theme. And I wanted to add something up to that top right corner, and I wanted to use colors that match, and Cosmo Cricut papers tend to have a very unique color scheme. So I just cut a piece of the striped paper, and then I'm going to cut this into 3 little pennants just by cutting the triangles into the end and then cutting them into 3 separate pieces. So it wouldn't necessarily have to come from striped paper, but it was very easy to do it that way. Just straighten these up because I'm cutting them by hand, so sometimes they're a bit wobbly. And I'm adding brown ink to those to make them match. And then I'm going to place those in that top right corner. And what I do with pennants is I only put the adhesive on the square end and not any on the end that has the fancy cut. And then I kind of curl them up a little bit from the page so that there's a bit more movement. So these are going to overlap over there. And I put the yellow one in the center because that meant I could put some letter stickers on top and have the most contrast since that was the lightest of the 3 colors. And I had a strip of that yellow polka dot left. I'm going to add that for some more journaling space and just in the bottom right corner. Trim off the edge from the other side. And I'm going to use my favorite little stickers recently. These are by Lily Bee Designs, and they come in several different color schemes. And they're really tiny alphabet, but they're a little bit bigger than the tile alphabets. They're very small, like the My Little Shoebox has some, and Making Memories has some. They're a little bit bigger than that, and they're not in a box, so they are an actual letter. So I'm going to add those to the pennant up there at the top. And then some more down here at the bottom. So that'll have the place and the date in those matching letters. I finished it off with a little more journaling at the top and the bottom with a precision pen by American Crafts. And that's it. That's this week's page. I hope you will stop by Shimelle.com to have a printable copy of this sketch and to see all the other pages that get made by this sketch. I'd love for you to join us this week or any week. There's a new sketch every Wednesday. And thanks for watching.